shine, you will prosper in Africa. Yeah, the world. Liberia, sweet land of Angacee, we prophesy to you, you will rise, you will shine, you will prosper in Africa. Yeah, the world. Liberia, sweet land of liberty, we prophesy to you, you will rise, you will shine, you will prosper in Africa. Yeah, the world. Liberia, sweet land of liberty, we prophesy to you, you will rise, you will shine, you will prosper in Africa. Yeah, the world. You are lifted, amen, hallelujah. Liberia, you are lifted, amen, we prophesy to you, you are lifted, amen, hallelujah.
Clean, safe, and ready to kickstart fun.
Okay, hello everyone. If you're here, please share this video. I'm actually going to play a song. Most of you who are calling me now even know, but this is on Socio-Economic, Trouble in Soweto, and this is South Africa, a cry of freedom at the time, and this is a song of independence, a song of emancipation per se. So I'm going to play that briefly, and then we will start the show. And we already have our guest here, so that's a good thing. So let me see where we go from here. Yep. Yep, I'm gonna do that really quickly, and so we can start one. If you're here, please share the video. Okay, please share the video. It may not be one of those, but it's a freedom song. My phone is popping. It's just to bring you to a place where we are. So when you hear Amanda, way to where all of that came from. Yep. Yeah, this is the story of us as African. I know we love the yelling, we love the this, the that. I like to educate. You know, I like to take us from place to place, from history to current edition. Oh, yes, I do. So I like to give that. Fire in Soweto, burning all my people. People. I have no copyright to this music. Yeah. Yeah.
Victimizing all my people. My people are crying. I look at my people are dying.
Hello everyone, welcome to Second Thought. Now you get that. This is the 70s, the 60s, the 80s, the 90s, and now we are at war with ourselves as Liberians. That said, I will play the video for you, but before I start and bring my guest on, I needed to acknowledge something really quickly, where we are as a country, all right? We all woke up to a different day yesterday and the day before, and it seems like this is an everyday problem now in Liberia per se. I wanted to acknowledge, and I always talk about this. If those of you who follow me would know that I talk about this. I talk about proximity being a problem in Liberia. When we mean proximity, we're talking about connection. So let's, like in America, they talk about race. I remember when Obama took over, people like a black man is president now, so there are no more racism. So people have come together, people have been able to vote and here. And someone also said, no, things that have happened for ages cannot just disappear. It cannot just change overnight, all right? And that's why I've always talked about tribalism in Liberia. Me being a kid, a young lady during the war, that was what killed us, generalization, and we still do it today. I see people are pointing that we do that today as a nation. I think what happened this few days, it happened last year, if you all remember, when Yeke Koluba, before there was CAP, quote unquote, when we had saved the state and all of us were preparing to take a tour. In fact, Yeke Koluba had started speaking way before the moment he took over, when he saw that things were not correct. This is early 2018, okay? Most Liberians were with us. Those of us who were speaking when we saw that in the clear glance, and everyone at that time was staying in love with Mr. Weah. You could never really say anything, even when we tried to point out the obvious, to say we can start now and fix this. Most people didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to hear it. But Yeke Koluba started talking. We had the first protest. Then we had the second protest that was in May. The first one with Soup, okay? And Soup literally, what a little boy named Martin Kwali almost got killed. They jumped him, Rosa and all of these young girls. Then we came to the Bring Back Our Money campaign. Then we came to the Bring Back Our Money campaign came later, the Kabina Jana, okay? Then we had the May 8th that we all did, EFFL, Soup, the group from Kakatan led by Daniel Glidens, the University of Nima student, all of these children were involved. In fact, before we got to the Save the State June 7, Yeke Koluba was the most famous name in Liberia, okay? And Darius Dillon was coming along. I heard people calling me to say, oh, Mr. Cummings need to come and campaign. We were campaigning and here, right? People, we transported people from all around the world. We were on the phone 24/7 with Yeke Koluba, okay? And he was being hunted. And in fact, the day that they took thugs and so-called army personnel to Yeke Koluba house and they were beating the children that guarded him, Emmanuel Gwankwe of EFFL and his team, Sonny Ball and his community, Daniel Gideons, from Bonkante have to bring in a whole group to stay in that place along with the EFFL group and other youth group, okay? There was no safety state, there was no cap then, and I'm just studying, they said, and not to pick at anybody. We must give credit to where credit is due. Yeke Koluba took a tour around Mangibi, Nimba Kante, where he was challenged and was told by Prince Johnson he could not go there. Honorable Nwakwai have to challenge you and say, Nima is now off limit. Yeke Koluba is a citizen of Liberia. He will come to Nima Kante. This particular man last year did the same thing and say, in fact, the people of Grand Nigeria did not anticipate that Yeke will go. If Yeke go, he would not return. These things were being told. It's amplified today that because it was aired. Thank God to the news stations that air it. Thank God to our powerful sister and daughter, Mariah Yakula, who stood up to the so-called superintendent, a lawbreaker, whom I think need to be dismissed. And we will talk about that when my guests leave, why I think he should be dismissed. But we have problem, Liberia. This is a teachable moment. We all need to get in, not pass, and have a conversation. There needs to be a roundtable. There needs to be a conversation for tribe in Liberia and discrimination and generalization in Liberia. I hear people say, even in the community when I was president, you think that guillotine here? And in fact, during 1990, majority of the inhabitants in this community refused to come to the Liberian Association meeting because they were all called a rebel. We have not, there's that article out there that was saying that they should be banned from taking part in any community service work, which is EULA, which is the Liberian Association around the world, especially in America. Those statement was made, and I can tell you who made it, and I will publish those statements because I still have a copy of it. They stay out there, it was published. So I am saying this is a teachable moment for all of us. And we as Liberians must come together and have this conversation, not only point out a person, we are all guilty of it, and we need to go ahead and have that conversation. Again, it is important that this conversation is being held. And all those who have made these utterances to be, and I will also speak to that. I'm not sure what happened here. I'm trying to get Dualu to rejoin. Okay, I'm trying to get Dualu to rejoin. And everyone, today I should have two guests. I have not yet seen the other guests. Okay, I have not heard yet, so maybe he's coming on. But for now, I want to welcome our brother, a developer, a person who have invested millions of dollars, okay, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in Liberia, and done projects and going to help our country to see where he stands on the dual citizenship and how important this election is. I'm not sure where is it. I don't know where we're at. Okay. So Dualu, if you're there, I'd like to bring him on so we can start a conversation. We're 15 minutes into. My system keeps flipping over for some reason. I don't know. So I like to talk about that today. So please share the video. All right. Yeah, that was Sonny Okosi. Says you will remember your husband is a revolutionary. So you will remember. I'm trying to get Dualu on. I'm not sure where he been here though. He been here. Here he is.
Okay. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm back here.
Okay, you're here. Dualu, welcome to Second Touch. It's actually an honor having you. You're one of our patriots, a young man who have been here, but heart is in Liberia.
Yep.
Have actually gone on the ground. You know, people will say, "What have you done?" And invested not just your knowledge, your resources to make Liberia a better place. I want to say, welcome to Second Thought Africa.
Thank you so much.
Tell us about yourself.
Well, like every other person, I was born right in Monrovia, and I grew up in Buchanan until I was about 12 years old. Before the war came, we crossed the border into Ivory Coast. Went to refugee school, and I finished my grade school years here in Massachusetts. Joined the military. After the military, after undergraduate, graduate school, worked in corporate America for the last 15 years. But over the last 5 or 6 years, well, close to 10 years now, I've been doing business in Liberia, going back and forth. I just want to make sure if you can still hear me, you're sitting.
We can hear you. You're very clear. You can hear you. Yes.
So to give you a brief history, back in 2005, when President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf came to power, we were desperate to go back home. I mean, like most other Liberians, we were finding ways to go back home. At the time, I wrote a paper about this. Anybody can Google this. It's called Dualu Group Inc., a possible solution to Liberia sanitation's problem. But I'll just give you a brief history. I went to, at the time, Richie Tauber was the investment commissioner over the National Investment Commission. And they had a symposium here in the U.S., and the goal was to get professional Liberians to come back home into the country and to invest into the country. That was under the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration. At the time, maybe I was fresh out of grad school. We've been working for some time, and we wanted ready to do something back into the country. I flew to Washington, D.C., and I sat, some of these meetings, and we sat there listening because we wanted to do something back home. Cut long story short, I decided to go home. Initially, I wanted to do macro lending. My background is in finance and economics, and I really wanted to do something that will have a direct impact on the people back home because I understand where our peoples were. Now, a lot of people don't understand what's going on in Liberia now, but back in 2005, everything was broken down, okay? Say what you will about Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. I'm not a fan of hers, but she did some things right to turn the country around initially in the first term, most especially in the
Yeah,
first term. I was
I
back home in
agree.
Liberia
Mhm.
at the time. And I went to Liberia to do a feasibility study. Literally everything was broken down in the country. I mean, the courts, they still don't work, but the courts did not work. There was no police. Literally nothing worked. And I realized I could not do macro lending in Liberia because if I did that, I would lose my money and I would not get my money back. So I was walking up and down the streets of Monrovia. I couldn't help but notice people just standing on every street corner and just urinating. Women, men, it doesn't matter who. And I realized, wow, this is an opportunity here. I can do something because we were looking for a business idea in Liberia because the business idea that we took to Liberia, we realized it will not work. So we were looking for something else to come into the country, not necessarily seeking job because for me, I don't believe my greatest addition to Liberia will be through employment by any entity, government or the private sector. I believe my greatest contribution will be creating jobs in Liberia. So, and as I'm going up and down, I saw these people just literally urinating up and down. And as a former U.S. Marine, what we used to do is when we go to the field to train, we would take these porta potties to Liberia. I mean,
Yeah.
to the field to train. And I said, wow, there is no toilet anywhere. People literally, it's still true today, but it was more defined back then. And we could actually come in, bring in some porta potties and train some people to come and do this kind of operation in Liberia to kind of clean up the city. So what I did was I invested at first. Initially, it was $250,000 of my own money that I took to the country, and we bought these porta potties. Now, anybody that was in Liberia from 2005 all the way to maybe 2 years ago knew who I was because I was literally on every radio station. I was all over the country trying to bring awareness to this issue across the country. I took some tanker trucks to Liberia. I took porta potties. They were everywhere in the country. The goal was to minimize public open defecation in the country. Now, initially it was successful. I encourage people to Google this and read this article. It was successful. People didn't want to listen at first, but the government literally refused to listen. Now,
Okay.
the teaching of
Dualu, hold on 1 second. I want you to slow down a little bit because
okay,
some of the terms that you're using is foreign
okay,
to us, to our people. So
okay,
when you say porta potty, you are
okay.
talking about portable bathroom for
Yes,
use. Okay.
yeah, yeah. In
Yes.
Liberia, we call it
Okay.
mobile toilet. Like we say in
Yeah. Okay.
Liberia,
Mobile toilet. There you go. Yes.
mobile toilet. Yeah, we had these mobile toilets around the country, and we tried to make sure we distribute them around the country. In fact, when I first got to Liberia, and close to 95% of our people have been seeing these toilets before. We
Correct.
noticed this during our tour. What we did an in-person tour of Monrovia specifically. And we literally shut down Broad Street. I was fortunate to give a presentation at LU, and I brought some of these toilets to acquaint the citizens with these facilities. In fact, when I realized people were very curious, what I did was I put about 16 toilets in red light.
You're on mute.
Where
You're on mute, Dualu. We can't hear you.
somebody was trying to call in. Hello?
Okay.
Okay. So what we tried to do was to distribute these toilets around the city, and we put toilets in red light, Dualu, all over the city. And the goal was to acquaint the population with these porta potties. Our goal was, I mean, I went on the radio, I went on the airwaves, on TV, and said, listen, you don't have to pee and poo in the street. There is a better solution. Because our entire goal was to build a processing plant with these plastic waste around the city. Now, we were taking fertilizer in the long run, but we didn't have the money up front for fertilizer. But we realized we could consolidate the trash that were around the city initially, not just feces, but the trash as well. And the toilets were distributed around the city. And my people, you know, there is something going on in Liberia, and people don't understand this. And this is why sometimes I try not to comment when somebody says, so what have you done back home? It doesn't matter me or anybody else. There is this uphill battle. If you come from the West and you come into Liberia and you're trying to do something that generates money, that gives you some what they perceive as power, your own people will fight against you for reasons that I cannot explain. Now, I don't know the reason why. Now, my own government was not interested. I became very, very mad. In the article, people were demanding money here and there. As it stands right now, in fact, I still have a check that bounced from the previous government that I probably would never get. But what we did was, when we realized the government was not really interested in these toilets, we decided to target the foreigners, the Americans, the Germans, the Chinese. If I Meta Steel, the largest, when they were building the railroad between Buchanan and Yikipa, I had the contract to supply them porta parties. The American embassy's expansion, a Kennedy Hotel project, I supplied in toilet. So we did all of that in Liberia. The goal was to create jobs. And most recently, before I give you the flow back, what I've decided to do, when President Weah came to power, my goal was, this is my country. I don't care who's in charge. The goal is to create jobs. So I believe it was back in the first year, about 6 months in power, President Weah had a get together with diaspora Liberians. I was not in Liberia at the time, but it was live. And he was encouraging us to come home. So listen, we will set aside $10 million for Liberians to come into the country and try to create jobs and invest in the country. Now, I already have some platform on the ground in Liberia. In fact, as it stands right now, I'm actually completing a project that is close to $2 million in Liberia. It's a massive building that I'm building. It's a 5-story, 50 apartment building that we're building into the country. But what we tried to do was to create jobs. Now, I wrote a proposal and I flew back to Liberia. Actually, I flew with my entire family, my 3 kids and wife, and going back and forth, and I presented this proposal to them. And what we suggested in this proposal, within the very first year, it's been in Liberia for almost 2 years now. We are willing to create 200 jobs in the country, guaranteed 200 jobs. After 3 to 5 years, this operation will self-fund. The government doesn't have to pay a penny ever again for trash collection in the city of Monrovia. The proposal sits there. Now, there are other extraneous circumstances around this, outside of which I don't want to explain here, because there's something happening in Liberia. If a citizen speaks his mind, people attribute it to not liking somebody or not loving somebody. I don't love anybody. I love my wife and my kids. I don't attribute my likeness to anybody else. My goal is for Liberia. I'm not going to like you. I'm not going to hate you, but I just want to do business in my own country. I don't have to subscribe to any political ideology to do business in my own country. Do you follow me? Are you still getting me?
We can hear you. Okay, so I wanted us to get you where you are, where you stand, and then we will go to the dual citizenship because we want to look at how that impact us, how that impact Liberia, and why this election is important. So yes. So I want you to finish your thought on your particular contributions. Yeah.
Yeah, so what we've done in Liberia, we have poured a lot of resources in the country. This is what I really feel about Liberia, very specifically. In fact, I just published an article called Restart Liberia and Build a New Foundation. And one of the things we are advocating for is, look, everybody's heard this phrase, foreigners will not develop Liberia. Not because it's true, but because foreigners do not have vested interest in developing Liberia. In fact, it is more advantageous to them if Liberia is not developed. They make more money. Nothing against foreigners, but this is how, because if I'm a businessman, I'm trying to make more money, and a certain environment provides me an avenue to make more money. I want to keep that environment as is. People have to understand this. Look, and one thing, and when President Weah first came to power, and one thing and even when I speak to some of these guys, I was fortunate to sit across the table from Twe. He encouraged me. I even published an article regarding this issue. People can Google this as well. It's called Leveraging Liberia's Resources to Lift the Pro-Poor Agenda. And one of the things we were out of, said, listen, I don't care who wins and who doesn't win. You have to understand, you have to find Liberia's best minds to come in and do the job. I am not naive. I do understand if you win a political election, you have to get benefits. I get that. But there are certain positions that you can just give to anybody because this country has to grow. We are doing everything to make sure this country grows. The way the country is going is hurting not just the people in government. When you say that, they don't understand this. This is a process. Liberia will be here long after we are gone. So if you don't make it right, it's going to also affect you directly. You may think you're making some money now. We've had administrations that come and go. The way the country is going is horrible. It's not going right. Anybody that understands the way things should be done, it's not right for our country. And if we don't speak up, Liberia could go in ways that it's going to hurt every single one of us. It is not an issue against an individual. People have to stop this. Nobody have to love the president. I'm under no obligation to love anybody but my wife. I'm under no obligation to, if you speak something against your country, you just want better things for your country. People have to understand that. And this is something that we are not doing in the country. We want Liberia to be viable enough where a Dualu can come in, okay, Kula or Flomo, where you're saying they can come and say, listen, this is my country. I hold a political view, and I'm not going to be penalized for this. And this is what's going on in the country. People have to understand this. The country is literally going to the dogs. And if nothing is done, we're going to implode.
Thank you so much, Dualu, for that overview. Guys, this is Dualu. Dualu just told you, we follow him for a while. And like Dualu, we did not even go that far. What we first did was we built ourselves a home. We built ourselves an office space somewhere in one of the villas. And the goal was to, my husband's a structural engineer, has been for almost 30 years. I would say 28 years. He graduated in 1992, worked and developed in planning for the state of Minnesota, New York, on Wall Street. Now, Georgia literally runs a budget bigger than Liberian budget. And we wanted to go give back in LA second, going to the second term, almost at the second term, 97, 98. So that was the construction phase, and to see how we could tap into the knowledge in Liberia, train them, bring them along the place. At the time, myself, we're out of school, we have worked in corporate for a very long time. We're both, around the same age. We join other engineers, other Liberian professionals, we say technocrats to go to Liberia. Some are also where we had, because we didn't want to take loan, we even have a person who was taking the whole retirement funds to give it to us. My husband has to say, whoa, we need to bring something because we don't want you alone to have all the vested interest, and everybody will have interest in it. This is a Liberian community. We got to Liberia, we registered, I told the story before. We got the first Liberia-owned business Class A license. And guys, I can tell you how long it stood. There is Radio Nimakante. Jerome, thank you and welcome to Second Talk. Go ahead, we're listening. Oh, that was we guys. We're live on Radio Nimakane, and Radio Nimakane will announce ourselves. It covers Monrovia, Ivory Coast, some part of Ivory Coast, some part of Guinea, Monrovia, Grand Gilead, and all of those places. We want to make sure our people get the information that we are providing to them. He will call back, so it's right on time. We call and we get to that. I really wish we can get, because the thing, I have to pay for this thing to go on, so I portion setting the number of time for that, and they will re-air it anyway. So when time came for things to come to work, we started having a hard time. It was a back and forth. It was this person want to be a part, this person want to do this, and we thought that was not our ethics. We weren't going to practice that. You even Buffer Chambers wanted to be our partner. My husband said you could designate someone who can have a share in the organization, but we can't do business with you directly because it's unethical. It's just you're a policy maker, an overseer. You can't be, there's a conflict of interest. That was it for us, and they just closed literally every door. Okay. So you think about Liberian children, engineers graduating, and you have Liberian engineers who are experienced, some of them are professors coming back to Liberia and say, listen, we'll volunteer at LU. You don't have to pay $70,000 to send one Liberian student to America to go to school, right? But here we are. Now, let's go to the dual citizenship. Does that benefit Liberian for a Negro, a non-Negro at this point, to be a citizen in Liberia? Are we prepared, Dualu, from your lens and everything else that is working against us? What do you say? You're a professional person, you have your own experiences. What will you say to that? Historically speaking, and just looking ahead, what will you say to the Liberian people?
Well, I want to say this to my people. I'm not going to just respond. I will give you examples before I respond so you can get a picture.
Please do.
I lived in Japan for 2 years. And the way that citizenship work over there is different. Not just anybody gets citizenship. Even in this country, America, that we live, until this country was able to distribute citizenship to other people, at one point only white men with property could own, to become citizen of this country. In parts of the world, from Germany, all over, there is something called...
You talk 1 second, because I want the rest of the world in Liberia to hear you. So Jerome is here. Jerome, go ahead and make your announcement. Then if you will start back with where you live and all of that, because I want the people in Liberia to hear it. And I will say that later in Mano. Go ahead, Jerome. Good afternoon. Welcome to Second Talk. We're live from the Stone Mountain of Georgia. Dualu, where are you? Tell us where you are.
I'm in Boston, Massachusetts.
We are on Radio Nimba live here in Sunny County.
Okay.
Nimba County, the capital city for Nimba County. So we are monitoring the table discussion, and we'd like to appreciate all those who have entered and also monitoring us here via Radio Nimba. So on behalf of Radio Nimba family here, Jerome C is my name. I would like to say good evening to all of you and welcome to our broadcast here this evening. So you are welcome back to our discussion.
Thank you so much, Jerome, and thank you, Radio Nimba. And guys, I hope you partake. You can call later. I will post the number. You can call us via WhatsApp and directly in the US to participate in this call today because it concerns you. We're speaking because we're concerned about our country, because we're Liberian, because we care about you. Let not nobody say Liberian in diaspora do not care. There is absolutely nowhere like home. We are connected by our neighbor stream. We are connected by our country. We are connected, and your interest is our interest. Thank you so much, Jerome. You can call back in the next 20 minutes to make an announcement. Thank you so much. All right, go ahead, Dualu. They're on their live.
Yep, and to our brothers in Nimba County, we say welcome to the show, and we're really, really happy to have you on. And like Sis Yashidi said, we do care about you because this is home. Okay, I see Liberia, doesn't matter where, it's my home. But let me go back to the dual citizenship issue. Even in this country, before people would get citizen here, it was when the white man would land that could become citizen. In fact, you have to hold certain status to become citizen. All around the world, there are restrictions on citizenship. Now, let me get back to the issue of Liberia. As for the dual citizenship to like people of Liberian heritage, I believe there should be no obstacle. We should be granted 100% citizenship because I am a citizen. It doesn't matter where I go, my loyalty, my father is a Golapeta man. My mother hails from Riverside County. I was born in JFK. This is my country. I am citizen 100%, not halfway, not any other way, because my entire self is to Liberia. But let me give you something. I oppose dual citizenship for people of non-Negro descent for 3 reasons. If these 3 reasons are satisfied, I have no qualms about anybody becoming citizen of Liberia. But one thing you cannot do, you cannot disadvantage the original citizens simply to have dual citizenship because it creates problem. And I will give you more examples about this. 3 things have to happen. Number 1, right now in Liberia, the per capita income, I will tell you what that means. The average Liberian makes $700 a year. Some people say $500, but I'm a kind of person, I will push it up a little bit. I would say $700 per year. The average person here in America makes about $50,000 a year. $50,000 USD dollars a year. If you make those 2 people, you say, listen, this is an even playing field. You can play together evenly. You heavily disadvantage as person, like Liberian citizen, because they don't have the capital to compete on the even playing field. Number 1, if Liberia per capita income, meaning if the average Liberian can make at least $30,000 a year, that's my first condition to give you citizenship to anybody. It's not like you're restricting citizenship, but 3 things have to happen. Number 2, let the life expectancy in Liberia be upped to at least 70 years old, because at this point, we are living longer and we are understanding certain things. And the 3 and most important thing, the education level in Liberia right now, it stands around 45, 50%. If it can reach to 85, 90%, at this level now, we can compete. But right now, as it stands, you cannot give citizenship to other people when Liberians are not in position to compete on an even playing field. The issue is about evenness. Now, I will go back to the US, that people don't understand this. There was a period, there was something in America, there was a law called the Chinese Exclusion Act. There was a law against anybody who was not white. It doesn't mean people think it was just racism. No, it was protecting what they own. There is nothing wrong.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with protecting what you own. In Japan, you can be born in Japan. You can be raised in Japan. Like I said, I lived there for 2 years and I was stationed there. You are not a citizen. They have this crazy law in Japan where if you even got into a car accident with a Japanese citizen, you are 30% wrong before they even start discussion. So you're working in the 70%.
Citizen empowerment. Yeah.
I'm not just saying because that's fair or not. But
listen. Please, y'all share this video. We are not cussing here, and people cussing at their business. You know, we all got different rights to. But it's good to emancipate the mind. We're giving you good information that you can work with to enlighten our people. Besides, though, I'm Black on Facebook, so I can share. A lot of people, this is not my direct, this is a new page that is set up. If you share, your people get to see this. If I were on my own page, we have 200-300 people, you already know that, but we have to build this platform. And in fact, somebody like Dualu, I want him to have time here, business segment, that he can teach Liberian how to be independent, start being dependent on government, okay? And those are stuff we're talking about. So Dualu, go ahead. Sarah, I just wanted to come in to kind of amplify that.
Okay, and to most of our people, you have to understand something. We are not in, look, people talk about 80% unemployment in Liberia. That number is much higher for several reasons. The reason is, even the people that are employed, they are literally unemployed because it's like a hand-to-mouth operation that's going on in the country. So in this environment, you give, look, listen, you have non-citizens in Liberia, as it stands, for instance, people of Middle Eastern descent. They currently dominate the socio-economic environment in the country, even though they are not citizens. I want you to imagine if you couple their capital, their money, with their citizenship in Liberia, they will totally dominate. Look, Trinidad has to do with citizenship. The Lebanese there, they dominate because of this issue. And it's a big issue. I want you to Google the issue with Trinidad and some of these Caribbean countries. You find there are more Lebanese that live outside of Lebanon than they live in this country. Wherever they go, they dominate now. It's not against anybody. But my bigger issue is we cannot extend citizenship when we ourselves are not protected. In order to get full protection, even in America, where we all enjoy the rights here, there was restriction for a very long time. Even people that was born here that look like me were not true citizens until 1960 in this country. People don't understand this. So citizenship is not something you just give away. It's something you strengthen the base, and then you're strong enough to accept other people. That way, everybody enjoys the country evenly. But imagine you're a citizen of a country, and these things bring war. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about denying people. We're talking about protecting Liberia. Because if you have a bunch of people who are now quote-unquote originally Liberians, and they come into the country, and they dominate everything, there will be anger in the country. But if I have, and you have, and I get the same purchasing power, meaning anything you buy, I can buy it, you're not going to dominate me so easily. So my 3 reasons. Number 1, until this happens, make sure our per capita income hit at least $30,000 per annum. That means we have a lot of work to do to get Liberia to a middle income country. The policies are out there. I wrote a whole paper on this. It's called Common Sense Economics for Liberia. You can Google this, okay? If you want to read about the issue, how we can get to a middle income country, it's out there. You can Google this. Number 2, we have to make sure our life expectancy is up to at least 70 years old. The reason why I'm saying that, if we can up our life expectancy to 70 years, that means we are doing a lot of things right. The numbers just don't go up. These are indicators, economic indicators that will cause you to actually get to those numbers. And number 3, and this is crucially important, our literacy rate has to be at least 85 to 90%. Then you extend citizenship to anybody who come in. The reason for this point at this time is Liberians are strong enough to protect themselves against anybody else that they are inviting into the country. Every country in the world, don't I say one country, every single country in the world strengthening their local citizenship before it will extend it to other peoples. In fact, right now, even in Britain, which is a developed country, people that were born in Britain, that came to Britain, some of their parents came there a long time ago, they are even denying their citizenship because the British government feel their citizenship is going to too many people. I'm not saying yesterday, I'm saying today. Now you have a country that is very frail, that has absolutely nothing, no protection, and you extend it to people that are more powerful than you, they are going to dominate you. And in order to protect Liberian citizenship, you must strengthen local Liberians to be strong enough. People say, oh, land, I don't care about land, because if you have money, you're not going to sell your land for $300. I'm not talking about that. I want you to have these 3 things: economic power, be living longer, and be educated enough to know what you're doing. Now, it brings me back to the issue of extending citizenship to Liberians that were born in the country or people with Liberian heritage. One thing I do, I take my children home every single year. I have 3 kids. Even their neighbor streams were buried in Liberia, even though they were not born in Liberia. I did that for a reason. The reason why I did that, because this is their country. And the last time Yusine and I spoke on the phone, I mentioned the issue of Cape Verde. I want you to understand something. In this country, I wrote a paper out there. It's called the $1 billion challenge. You can Google this paper as well. And we Liberians in America and in the West, in Australia, in places like Britain, in most of Western Europe, I put the number around 1 million to 1.2 million Liberians that are living outside the country.
And let me come in. I put it from my projection. I put it to 1.2, 1.5 million. So
Excellent.
it's within, you know,
Yeah, it's within
the margin of error. So we are on track. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So if these Liberians, now most Liberians that I know, they are professionals, they work in this country. Even, you know, some politicians back home, or some Liberians that try to counter what we say to our people. They say, oh, people in Liberia, in America are cleaning poo-poo. Let's assume our people are cleaning poo-poo here. It's not a shameful job. People do it here to survive.
Dignity of labor. Yes,
thank you. Dignity in labor. But a typical person that is quote unquote cleaning poo-poo, that people call in this country, will make between $25,000 to $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
This is a lot of money when you compare that to the typical Liberian back home. Now, we will use the minimum money that a typical quote unquote poo-poo cleaner has in America, that makes every year in America. Let's put the number to $20,000 times $20,000 by just 1 million, not 1.5 or 1.2, just by $1 million.
1 million, yes.
What I'm trying to say is, the Liberian living in the diaspora, every single year, we get close to $30 billion in our pocket, or way more than that. 30, that's with a B, billion dollar. Now, for you to understand this number, everything in Liberia that they do every year, they call it GDP, it's only $2.2 billion. That means Liberians that are living abroad, they are 15 times richer than the typical Liberian back home. It could be way more, but I'm being very conservative.
Yes, now, that is correct. Reasonable.
Why would any sensible person want to give up these people's money? You want that money. Now, what Cape Verde has done, they came up with this great model, and I think Liberia should visit this model. I wrote a paper that I was fortunate to present at LU at the time. It's called The Modernization Guide for Liberia, How We Can Modernize Liberia. You can Google this paper. It's out there somewhere. And what we did was, Cape Verde has most of the citizens outside of Cape Verde than they do in Cape Verde. And in fact, most of the Cape Verdeans that are outside of Cape Verde actually live in the state of Massachusetts. I went to the high school with some of these kids. I went to college with some of these kids.
I have some friends in Georgia. They have some huge community here too. Go ahead.
Thank you. And what they do is the Cape Verdean government realized, listen, we have most of our people living out. And most of the people that are living outside of Cape Verde, they make way more money, not just a little more. I'm talking about 15, 20 times more money than people back home make. This is also true for Liberia. The way we can harness these people for potential is to extend not just citizenship, but voting rights to them as well.
Voting rights and pay taxes, yes.
And pay taxes.
This is my issue. Do this, yes.
I'm being on a very minimum. Everything I'm talking here, and my brothers in Nima County, in Grand Gila, in Moserata County, in my boyhood city of Grand Bassa County. You listen to me this. I want you to listen to this. If a typical Liberian who makes minimally $30,000 a year, if you extend, because if I went home right now, nobody can say, oh, Opa, you're not citizen in Liberia. Nobody even will stand for me. In fact, we have people that hold in position who are U.S. citizens. So we are fighting against them. Yeah, we know that. But I'm not going to go down for that. But the issue is, if you took 300,000 of these people that are living abroad and they choose to vote in Liberia, you say, you know what, Yesini, since you don't live permanently in Liberia, and we are extending your voting right, not just dual citizenship. I believe that issue is null and void. I believe our people will pass this. But because you don't live in Liberia, every single year, in order to continue your voting right, you will pay $500 in taxes to the government of Liberia as a way to maintain your voting right. I'm being hypothetical here. We can create different scenarios, but I'm just being.
I would say $250. That it would still be astronomical. Yeah, but go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, let's say $200. So 300,000 people decide to put $200. That is way more money than the entire budget of Liberia.
That is correct.
Now, you have to understand this. We are trying to grow a budget. Look, I used to work for this company called Reciprocity. It's a Department of Defense contractor. I used to be a proposal analyst for them. And what these companies would do is we will outsource a lot of contracts to these small vendors. When I say small vendors, some of these companies are worth like 500 million, 600 million. These are very small companies in the US, okay? The company that Reciprocity is worth close to $1 trillion. These are billion dollar companies. They make airplanes, ships, bombs, etc. When they outsource to these little companies, and when we're doing bid, we will have like sometimes 70, 40 companies with bid. This is more money coming into the country. You have to find ways, not just your typical revenue base to make money. You have to find other ways. Look, I'm one of the people I believe we should close the mines in Liberia. There should be no extraction of our resources because we are not prepared to fully actualize the benefit from these resources yet because the human capital is not developed in Liberia. That's a whole nother story for another day. I'm not going to go there. But the issue here is if you can generate 2 billion, 1 billion from diaspora Liberia, and you extend them 4 seats in the legislature. Let's assume you get 1 senator from the Americas. You get maybe 1 senator from the Pacific Rim. We're talking about Australia, most of Southeast Asia. And you got 1 senator from all of Africa. You get 2 representatives from the Americas. And because these people are representing the Liberians in the diaspora straight in the legislature, you can extend this tax burden to them as well. So listen, if you're going to vote in the election that have an effect in Liberia,
I am loving this conversation.
you are going to be paying $200. We can raise an additional $2 billion every single year without doing nothing. $200 for Yesenia is absolutely nothing. When she kids take her kids to Chuck E. Cheese, when they were kids, she would spend that kind of money.
Yeah.
So if she paid $200 to vote, she was happy to pay that money. Now, why if the 1 million Liberians in the diaspora pay that money? You can build the coastal highway in 2 years because we don't have to
take loan.
You don't have to take loans.
Loving this. Go ahead.
You don't have to take loans.
Just free fall. We ain't got to go anywhere. Go ahead. Yes.
You don't have to go anywhere. Like I said, I wrote about these. You can Google leveraging Liberia's resources to live the pro-poor agenda. You can Google articles like Common Sense Economics for Liberia. They're out there. We wrote about these stuff. What we're trying to say is going out to borrow this money, they come with so much burden. And there is something happening now. For those of us that are working in finance, you have to understand the issue of countries giving out free money like in the past, the World Bank, the IMF, those are not happening anymore like they used to. You have to understand this. If they give you this money, sometimes you will have even individual companies. Look, and we all remember it was an Evil Mob and Beefo Mob, all these companies. Most of these were money laundering outfits. People were trying, drug dealers trying to wash the money.
Gotcha. Yes.
Well, the first day I heard, I think, my first job, I used to work for this custodial bank downtown Boston called Investors Bank and Trust. My first job was an anti-money laundering agent. And we used to track for the bank people that are trying to wire money through the bank and wishy-washy it to make it look like real money. And that was my job. So when the first thing when I heard, I didn't even have to go look long. I knew straight. This was not a viable entity. It was not something to take money from. This is why you see right now in our country, we're getting 20 million. We are getting 30 million. This is not money that is given to countries. This is a pocket change. This is a country. If you're going, look, we in the diaspora, we have the capability to give you the money if you come up with policies that extend us our true citizenship. But my issue is not about citizenship. It's how we can grow Liberia. We are talking about the coastal highway in Liberia. In fact, in one of my articles, one of the things, the $1 billion challenge, one of the things that I proposed in the article, and I'm so glad you've seen it, you read the article, was, listen, we in the diaspora, we can set up a venture capitalist firm here in America. We register it in America. Everything will be done in America because I know people will not trust it if you go to Liberia. And we say, listen, if you live in America, we will sell you a bond. This is all insured on the FDIC. You're not going to Liberia. It has nothing to do with Liberia. But the only intent of this agenda is to invest in Liberia. Let's say we put a thoroughfare around the city of Monrovia. Like if you went to Georgia, if you went to Atlanta, there's a road wrapped around it. Every city in America, there's a massive highway wrapped around the city. If you want to go to Monrovia,
we call it 285. So long as you stay on it, you can't transit, you can't get lost. Yes, 285. Yes.
You would just be going around the circle. One of the things I would propose is we can build an 8-lane freeway around the city of Monrovia, and you put essence on this point. That's going to cost you around $400 million. We can raise that money here. So if we just took 1 million Liberians that are living overseas, listen, we want to sell you $500 bond. And this bond, you can hold it for 2 years. After 2 years, it pay you 2 to 3% interest. This money go into a trust. You can see this trust is registered on like JP Morgan, on Bank of America. And everything is insured here. We go invest in Liberia. We can invest in a hydropower plant. We can invest in something like a freeway system around the city of Monrovia. We can invest in the coastal highway from Harper all the way to Cape Palmas, all the way down to Cape Mount. Then we can tour these roads. This become a business. This is how we in the diaspora can invest in the country. So when somebody say, oh, you're living over there, you don't care. Everything we do here is about Liberia. I don't know a single Liberian. My father is still alive. He lives here. He's 70 some odd years old. Everybody wants to go home. But one of the biggest things that people are afraid of, you don't want to drop your standard of living. I can't go home now. And my children, look, I don't even believe the public school in America are good for my children. I send them to a private school. Why would I go to Liberia and send them to a school that is not sufficient for them? So people are not just going to get up and go home. They want to go home with these things being there. And there is a way government policies have to create these things. Look, Ghana, we will always mention Ghana, the Rwandas of the world. People are making these exodus out of the West and going back to their home country because they are creating these avenues. The government are writing policies and implementing them and inviting these people back into the home country. And what that is doing is upping the economic activities in the country. And I'll give you a little bit about myself when I was in Liberia. At one point, I had almost 24 men working, 24 men. Nobody making less than $200 a month. That was the impact. I don't care how you spin it.
It was because people cleaning houses and doing stuff in Liberia, they pay them $50 a month. If they're good to them, they give them about $75. And most of those people work literally from 6 in the morning to about 9, 10 o'clock in the night. So I know that, and I know people who are doing that.
And we really want to do this, but when you come, even right now, my structure that I'm being built, on that structure, I only give you 30, 40 men working. That's something. So in order to come and do this something, don't see us as your enemies because we are your children. Because look, most Liberia, I would have never left Liberia if the war had not come. Most of us would not even be here. We probably would still be home and have a great childhood. We lost our childhood. And the issue is people have to understand, our heart is in Liberia. You have to understand this.
So Dualu, hold your thought for a second. I wanted to come in here. I concur with literally everything that you said, and I'm a testimony. My children, when they were born in the early 90s, I took them to Liberia in the fire. I would literally store their umbilical cord in the jar with some, peroxide that would preserve it until I took it to Liberia to be buried. So all of my children, umbilical cord is buried in Liberia because it's a belief system that says that where your umbilical cord is buried, that's your country, right? Because that's where mine was buried. Now, I tell people first and foremost, you cannot ask people to stay in your house if the only entry to your door, your house that brings security to your children is open, right? You have no means of protecting your children. Meaning all of our borders, we already see the struggle of our people. Liberia cannot tell you, the leadership of Liberia cannot tell you in confirmed terms that they know who is a Liberian, who is not. Liberians cannot tell me today the birth registry, how many children are registered in a birth registry or in their archive. Liberia registered less than 5% of her birth. These are statistical data that I'm giving to you so you can get that. Two, you just spoke about this, the living standard of Liberia, although they say $700. I don't know based on what that $700 is estimated. They just pop it up because about 2 years ago when Ellen was empowered, where people were a lot more, they were thriving, it was like between $400 to $500. So today you got people who can eat that. Depends. I see Liberian children standing in line from orphanage to homes and street, begging diasporan Liberian to be able to eat, to be able to go to school, and these things are not happening. Now, I have similar thought that you, when we first took over, my mom called me and she said, Cindy, Wea is your brother. My mom loved Wea. Let me tell you, Wea is like a brother to my brother. He used to come to Georgia, visit and all that, blah, blah, say. But I particularly, I did not care at the time that he had won. He was a Liberian and we needed to support him. Yep. So Dennis Jai and a few people and I came together and said, we'll create a database with Liberian around the world. And we got a great response to people. We just estimated, let's just stay at 1 million people.
Yep.
And we said the 1 million people, what we're doing, each of us would donate minimum $100. Like people were excited about that. All we needed this president to do to reach out. He did not need to borrow money. He did not have to ask Ellen Johnson Sirleaf whatever she left in the bank. If he said 100,000, that's fine. We didn't care about that. What we care about at the time is inclusion, right? We left like you. I was a kid. My life was interrupted. But I wanted to give back to my country. I still want to give back to my country. I give back by being here. Because you're here. You're sitting in your car. We are loud, and you don't want your kids to hear you yelling. But it's because you care. And you pack up your stuff, you go to a place that the healthcare system, even the lawmakers run away from, all right? Where the policymakers run away from, but you go there to invest. Now, the reason I'm loving this conversation is it's very informative, it's honest, it's somebody who actually is practical because you have lived it, I have lived it. You know, I don't even care if there are two people watching. If we can change two people's minds today, I think that's important. That's a start, right?
That's very important. Yes, absolutely.
I want to chronicle what you just said. If Liberia can have at least a budget of 30 grand a year, okay, then we're ready to compute. If the education level in Liberia is at least at 80%, then we're ready to compute. If the and these are legitimate, you know, what do you call it, analysis that you've done that people, the leadership need to look at. Now, what do you think is the holder that those who go into power, even majority of the people in power today are US citizen or US resident, okay? These are the same people that screamed yesterday. And that's why people do not believe you and our advocacy. Let's talk about this. Why this election, Dualu, this election is so important. Tell me the importance, tell the Liberian people why this election is so important. Because where's the message from? Yeah.
You asked two questions. Why our people don't believe us, and you know, people like even on the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration, they had some of the best minds that Liberia had to offer. They went back home and they didn't do the job the way we expected.
No, they did not. So the people don't believe us. Yes.
They don't believe us. Nah. And then this became a total reversal when it comes to WIA. He took the least prepared people and he put them in position. So it's the opposite, even though some of them from here. Now you have to understand, people that have not worked at a certain level and you put them there, automatically they're going to fail. Not because they're stupid, just they haven't been prepared to function. They're not prepared. They're not prepared. Yes, there's just one thing I've noticed. The reason why most of these people that are from here that fail Liberia, this is why I believe I would never take a government job so easily. The only two jobs I want in Liberia. If I'm not president, I wouldn't want to be businessman. Only businessman I can be so that I want.
That works for you and I.
Yeah. The problem here is because I believe you cannot make any impact in a country as gullible as ours if you just work in government. In many instances, you're not going to be able to. The truest change in Liberia will come from the presidency, not the legislature. Nowhere else. If the president,
what you talk, I gotta break you right there. That's exactly what Alexander Cummings has said. I'm gonna be a businessman, I'm gonna be president. That way you can make the most impact. Why do you say that? Coming from a different person who understands the mindset and the environment.
That's the issue. We have three branches of government, but two of the branches do not function as they should. It doesn't matter what the code wants, what the law says. Whatever the president says goes. In Liberia, you are in an enviable position if you're the president because you're literally a god, because you're leading a people that are highly illiterate. They're not stupid, but illiterate. They don't understand the ramification of what they're doing. Look, do you know why in a country like this, the votes were restricted for a very long time? Because the people believe voting is not a simple matter. And our people do not understand that yet. They believe voting was a serious issue. So it was restricted. In fact, if you gave most Republican chance in this country, they will restrict the vote again. That's how important the vote is. The issue here is, in Liberia, if you're the president, you can set the tone, you can decide which legislation is written, you can decide how the court rules, you can decide whether laws are enforced or not. You have every power. Most of these powers are not in the Constitution, but you can claim them without question because we don't have a middle class. And that brings me to your second question. The reason why that is existing is because this second question is not existing. Most people from America, they know a little bit now. They've tested what it means to live in a decent environment, what to have running water, 24-hour electricity, the basic amenities of life. They've tasted that. But this is what happened in Yesini. And all this time I was in Liberia, I mean, from 2005 to 2017, I went to Liberia like 20 times. So I was almost always in Liberia. And what would happen is most of these guys come from America. They come, I like to call them transient Liberians.
Transient, yes.
Yeah, they were very
Meaning they're in
transient.
transit, they're not staying, they're just there temporarily. Gosh, you
Yeah,
gotta understand,
you go for
away
visit.
somewhere. Mhm.
Yeah, they were on their way somewhere. And one thing I covered in one of my previous articles, I don't remember which one was this. If you are representing Grand Bassa County, in fact, actually it was covered in Restart Liberia and Build a New Foundation. If you are representing Riverside County, this is a forested area. And as soon as you win, you go to Monrovia and you build your house in Monrovia.
In Monrovia, that is
Fully
correct.
detached from the people. You do no longer represent them because you don't understand the plight.
No.
I cannot be married to a woman and we don't live in the same house or we don't share a lot of same thing. I will not know this woman. I have to know the intricacies of this woman. She has to know me. What pisses me off? What makes her happy? It is my duty to know that. If you negate that duty, you are not representing the people. You become yourself. One thing I propose, if you come from America, me and Ansu Opa Dualu, and I take up ministerial post in Liberia. If my children, my wife not coming, it should be illegal. It should not happen.
I agree, 100%.
The policies, if the decisions you're making, and those decisions are not affecting you directly, you don't care. It was true under the early Johnson administration. It is still true now. The reason why we progressed a little bit pre-war or pre-1980, most of the people that led the country, we can talk about the exclusion thing that happened, but most of the people that led the country, they lived in the country. The consequences of their decision affected them.
Affected them, yes.
Affected them. So if I went to Liberia, you see me, if I'm in Liberia, in Liberia, my office that I built, I live in my office because I made it big enough. I have solar panels on my roof. I have air conditioning. I have my vehicle parked outside. I have a security guard. Do you think I really understood what people are going in Liberia? No.
No.
Because if I'm ready to go somewhere in my car parking, it's not a boastful thing, but you're detached from the true understanding of what's happening in the country. You can claim to know, but you are not living it. But if you live in Balata in Riverside County, it's a fictitious name I just made up. But if my mother's from Sesto, let's assume you lived in Sesto. This is a horrible location, and you have to cross the river every now and then, and one of your kids got drowned in that river because the bridge is broken. And you realize to get a spare tire in Riverside, you have to travel for 3 nights in the forest to get through to Buchanan or to Monrovia to get a spare tire. And you represent that area and you live there, I can guarantee you when you get back to the legislature, you will make sure your county development fund go into Riverside County. Not because it's just you, but because you just lost your first son for drowning in the river because there was no bridge. If you went to Sesto High School, I remember in 2009, the entire high school of Sesto, they didn't have any roof. The kids were sitting in, and when it rains, the school got to shut off. If my kids were going to Sesto High School because I'm a representative in Sesto, you best believe we will put a roof on top of that building. So these little things, look, extend dual citizenship. The only caveat that I will have on dual citizenship, you must feel the consequences of the decisions you're making. If you're going to drive in the opposite lane at 10,000 miles an hour and you're running over other people's children, if you realize your children also live in Nizo, you're going to slow down. It's human nature.
Yes.
It's human nature. So it's only thing, because this is why the Liberians from abroad have failed. They come to the country in a transient manner. They come in, they send 80% of their salaries here. Look, for me, I don't care. If you go to Liberia as a businessman, please do whatever you want. This is the choice you've made. But if you're coming in to benefit from the money of the people, to be sponsored by the people, to be fair by the people, clothes, medical services taken care of by the people, you're on an obligation to service the needs of the people. It is not option, it's a duty. And another thing too, the people in Liberia, they are so, and my own people in Nima, in Buchanan, in Monrovia to hear me, they're so content with little.
And Dualu, let me say this. You literally were raised here because you went to high school here, right?
Yep.
I came here before I turned 21. So I literally, all my adult life, I've been here, right?
Yep.
Although I have And then people ask me at times, why you put yourself on the line? Okay. We weren't rich, but we had a little. And my mother, I went to a funeral one time. My mother stayed all throughout the war. She never came until the day that Taylor were leaving. People had threatened that they were gonna take care of her. Okay, my siblings were in Africa, somebody in Ghana doing, and we could afford to keep them up and all of that. But I got a call that morning and said your mother had taken a charter flight to Sierra Leone. She would be here like at 6 p.m. You got to pick her up. She didn't have to ask me for money. She could afford to do that. How many Liberians could have been able to do that, get a charter flight and get out, right? No, I'm not an elitist. My mother didn't work for the government. She worked for a foreign agency. So let me just make that clear. Well, when I was growing up, my mom would give me a book to read and I would say, that's foreign and that's boring, but I got paid. And because I got paid, I read it. So I tell people I was born conscious. Here it is. Before I left Liberia, in my mind, I've already traveled. I've been to Las Palmas in my mind. I've been to Morocco in my mind. I've been to America in my mind. So Dualu is talking on the other hand. So hold on, let me do this. And that's why, exposure is very, very important. We still have the three things when the Liberian Women Conference was held here in Georgia, the three things that we look at have been our problem, our hurdle in Liberia: religion, tradition, and politics. Okay? When about a year ago, when I would call on Radio Nima, I would call, people would come on the line and say, you're not supposed to question the president. You're not supposed to, you can't fight government. They are not saying the same thing 2 years later. Because you know why? There's somebody like you speaking who is educating them. Because guess what? Psychologically, or speaking of socio-cultural, we are part of our environment. You're only as good as what you know. So like today, they're listening to you. They're hearing there's a young man, whom I'm old enough to be his mother, because if you went to high school here during the war, I am. It's telling the rest of the young people in Liberia, when the government provides the environment, anything is possible, right?
Anything.
Everything is possible. I hear people on here who say, everybody can work for government. That is true. But the government provides the environment for the citizen to thrive. The responsibility is the government, because government is the leadership that the people elect to manage the resources and enlighten them and give them their future, all right? If that government fails, the people fail. And we have failed as a country over the years and continue to fail. Here is a young man who worked, come from a war, still joined a country. I'm sure when you joined at the time, the war was still going on.
Yes.
But came back and say, you know what, there's nowhere like home. I got to give back. But a few group of people, 103 people, decide they will literally hold the country hostage. When people get early justice, you know me, I'm like a hook, Dualu. I take it from every side. If there's a frog underneath, I will get you. If there's a worm, I will get you. If there's a cassava, I will get you. So I don't particularly have a side. And I said there are three branches of government in Liberia. Okay? If you say early fail, the legislative fail ridiculously because they are supposed to do the oversight. They are supposed to check and sign on budget. They are supposed to make salary and make sure it's within reason what the nation can provide and still be able to thrive or progress. They have not done so. And as you rightfully pointed out, and we must focus on the legislative, because here's why. We have an election coming out. This election will define people. You all want your children to come home. You all want Liberia to change. You all want your children to have future. You must make the right decision. If somebody being in the legislature for over 9 years, they are also part of our problem. I'm saying so. I don't care if the brother or sister or uncle, that's a problem. Because you know why? They sign on budget before the president can sign. They sign on concession contracts that comes to Liberia before the president can or until before it can be ratified. So, like and my husband said that when they offer in early government, when they called my husband to go home as a deputy minister or something, and the money they offer, somebody told my husband, you can hustle. I told you we can hustle. And we always say if one goes, all goes, right? So we believe that those who make the policies should also live within the policies that they make. Like for instance, Ebola, during Ebola, majority of the people in power were policies makers. They started leaving the country and leaving Liberians to themselves. So, but and we need more conversation on the Dualu. So you're not escaping from me. You're going to have a time here where you pick a time, bring people from Liberian businesses who have their own experience. How do we grow Liberia? Because we talk about it, we had this conversation. We can't run. The only thing we can do if we run is our country. We enter Zambia. Zambia now is a Chinese territory. Liberia will become a Lebanese, Indian, and Chinese territory. We can, because we are stronger, because we have a middle income of at least 50 grand a year, if you're on average, okay? We are the middle class that Liberia does not have to create. We are already here.
Hey, can we come over here? Can we put my back? Let me say that you mentioned something, and I have to comment on it.
Come on. I'm loving this conversation.
Government has to create an enabling environment. Look, government got only 3 responsibilities. I want our people to listen to me very carefully. Before you vote, before you support anybody, before you do anything from the government, measure these 3 responsibilities. Look, government got 3 responsibilities. Number 1, regulatory oversight. What that means is the government had to make sure everything is fair. Whether you live in Riverside, you live in Dualu, you live in Montreal, the same school they get in Montreal, they still get something in Riverside. If you don't have in Riverside,
exactly.
If they get breached in Montreal, that breach that over your river is going to be there. The regulation, the government agency, LPRC, GSC, regulatory oversight. Now the first rule. Number 2, the thing the government's going to do, the government's going to provide security. That means I Ansu Opa Dualu or Gola Peramen can go to Socio-Economic and feel like it's my home. I don't have to be welcome. I'm supposed to be protected. It is not optional. In fact, it's above the Constitution. That means it's from the people. Nobody can question me in Nima County or Riverside County. I can go anywhere in Liberia. You cannot stop it. Security. That's number 2. And the third most important thing the government got to do is to create what Yesini just said, the enabling environment. Now that word, I be English. It means when I want to go to school and I'm young here, nobody's going to rape me. The government will protect me.
Yes.
When I want to vote, I don't care if I want to vote for, the government will protect me. If I want to be a swimmer and no pool in my school, I can go sue the government or put pool in my government school because the pool there is what made me swim. If these things are not be done, now, the second question you ask is this. This election is very important. And I want our people to say this, and I hear this. Very, very important. You know, when we were small, we used to hear this thing from our mother. When your man swear you, it can catch. So you get to bad into your man. And you know what me says,
yes.
This is the biggest swear you can do to your children. I want you to listen. The biggest harm, the biggest injury you can cause to your children is to vote for a bag of rice. Is to vote for a sheet of zinc. Is to vote for something that should already be done for you, but they're using that for enticement. I don't care what the political party or political individual is. The biggest thing you can do for your children is to vote a future that ensures the following things, that they can self-actualize in Liberia. What I want me here, it won't become big man, it won't become the biggest engineer in the world. They will be able to be that big engineer in Liberia. It won't become president. It don't matter where they were born, they will be able to be that president in Liberia. It won't become a doctor in the hospital and be the best hospital in Liberia. It must be there. Vote for that reason. The candidate that promotes that. In a country where anybody, irrespective of where you were born, where you went to school, connection should not get you up in, it should be based on something the people call meritocracy. What it means is, the where you put in that they want you to get. If you want If you smart and you go, you study, you put your phone in bucket, you study all night. When you graduate, they must pick the best person that graduate from that school to get a job, not because somebody do something. Another thing that is important, our small getting, they will not get a body before they get job. That is not just wrong, it's a crime. It means you're supposed to go to jail. And I'm like, what kind of B-man you are? You're supposed to go to jail for it. The parents in Liberia, this vote, you have an obligation. If you approve certain things, that means you say, okay, let's assume if you approve A, you say, everything that's happening, I like it. Or you can change your mind and say, listen, this is an alternative. I don't know 100% what it could be, but we don't know yet what it can do. But now we know what this can do. People that are in power should not come to explain to you what they're going to do. You should already know because they've been given the opportunity. So just take what they have done and weigh it against what the proposition is, what the next person is proposing. And the next person say, the rule of law, constitutional oversight, separation of the branches of government, police equality, not party lining. This nonsense about people just marching in the streets, singing all day. We have to run a country. You cannot stop for economic activity. What that means, if I want to say my kasawa, you can't be all day in the street doing yamayama. Now you have the right to do that, but the government must make sure, like the orator said, you should not wait for people to get in the street to do what you're supposed to do for them originally. It is a duty. It is not optional. If you sit down and you say, oh, that the government to you, the consequences of these politics.
You know what? Amplify that. When I first, anyway, not this, but I served since I've advocated since I was 13, right? And I remember in 1990 when they had the first relief team that came to across the bridge. It's called Messi Sans Frontier. They needed Seth. Doris Dix was the director at the time. We lived up Marban Point. And they were sharing food. Liberians were dying from malnutrition. Those of us who have access to TV will see that on ABC in the middle of the night. They didn't have 24/7 network going on. So by 12 midnight, they would start off. And the people came on and they were looking for volunteers at Brown Crystal Compound. And everybody were afraid to go to the barracks. So I look at my mom and tell to my mom, I have to go because nobody wants to go. And my mother said to me, are you looking to die? So no, I'm coming from Marban Point and I'm going to the barracks. So automatically it was a death sentence. Remember now, I'm coming from beyond Rebel line. So it was a death sentence. And I said to my mom, I said, but Mom, they got children and women there. All right. How is that? How are they going to survive if nobody goes there? So, and when A.D. Darius Dillon met, you saw her speaking at John Lewis' funeral. She was the first financial secretary of the movement, the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King, Mrs. Clinton. I took her, in fact, she had been behind me for the longest. God, this is not to brag. Emmanuel will tell you. And they actually wanted me to be a part of the process. But y'all know, people say you don't love Liberia. My Liberia business, I've just limited where I could go, things that I could do, right? My Liberian business. The people have reached out, I'm like, there's one of me in Liberia community and I must be. So when I talk ADD, and she began to tell him stories, the power of one. Dualu, for instance, you go into Liberia with your business, the power of one, all right? And I decided that I will go to the barracks. And then Abueta Augustine decided she will go to the barracks. Charlotte Bantu decided, although her husband was being hunted to be killed, will go to the barracks. Mustafa agreed that he will go to the barracks. So we went to the barracks. And of everybody that went to the barracks, I'm the only one that were arrested and were almost killed. And guess who saved me? Hezekiah Bowen. I told you guys this story for 3 years since the election. If one thing, when you say the truth, you don't have to remember, right? Yeah. So the point I'm trying to make here is we in the diaspora, we who sit on platforms, I'm supposed to be studying. Dualu and I've been here an hour plus, okay, although we're about to leave. but there's something that's burning inside of us. Like we have very educated Liberians here. We got Sis Latia, Sis Miata is a revolutionary. I see Emric here. These are the accountants, people who got years of experience behind them in structured environment. Who wants to go home? But what I told my husband is whenever one goes, we all go. You don't get to stay and you don't get to go and we stay, okay? Because if we stay, then we will not give it our full attention. We wouldn't, okay? So the power of one start with each of us. When somebody say, my mom said, or first started and say, oh, you don't put yourself on the line, you know, the people business. Liberians, the people business is your business. When the Indian people started in this country and said it was the people business, the white men took their land. Today they are slaves and sitting on a reservation in their own country. Now most of you only know America is a white man land. You don't know who inhabited the land from the beginning of time until it took it over. And Dualu, I'm not sure if you ever read the story with Jomo Kenyatta. And then all of us read Team 4 Apart. We'll talk about Team 4 Apart later. But Jomo Kenyatta, the man who shared his house, the man's house was not built. The people came, the strangers came, foreigners came per se, that's what the story implied. And they say, your house is not developed. And in fact, they say, we want to come in your house. And the man said, my house is too small. And they say, okay, we'll just try to fit in. So the man shook himself in because it was a hut. It was an elephant. They depicted as an elephant. The next thing, it started to rain. And the elephant and the little guy, I gotta remember who it was, said, I'm gonna post it later, but said, but I can't stay outside. And actually it was the elephant again. The elephant was large, which represent the world, you know, the world leaders. And the little animal said to the elephant, boy, you push me outside in the rain. He said, well, my skin is delicate and I need to protect my skin, right? And eventually the owner of the hut was let out. And when the owner of the hut decided to appeal and go to the court was controlled by the incomers, the lion, the leper. What would the man do to the lion? What would the man do to the leper? What would the man do to the elephant? They were all bigger. So it speaks to the economic power that you speak to. Guys, go out and read. I don't remember this. This is some of the stuff that I teach in my class. When we come to literature, we start from the biology to literature about word and the worldview. Read that. African must read that. All African children should read Team 4 Apart. All African children should read, looking and facing what do you call it? Jomo Kenyatta, and the man who felt, who shared his heart. Then you will get, listen, even if you can't leave your geographical location, but if the mind can travel, the mind is the most powerful thing that there is. Absolutely. So I will come back to Dualu as we calm down. I'm actually very, very much loving this elections. This conversation. This conversation is this one. I've had some powerful minds and powerful young men. They're here. You talk about the informal loan. We have to fight. The occurrence breaking on my platform doing the informal loan to try to insult me. My team, Duke, Emric, Peter, Brother Mika. And these are people who have financial background, right? Really, and they came to pass here with our ways the informal loan. Some of them call it Iboma, this, that, and all of that. Now, we have talked about the dual citizenship, and you outlined before we close, you outlined the 3 major things that need to take place. All right, and we will start taking call in the next 3 minutes. Now, tell us why again, let's bring that home, that this election is important. The last election, there were debates, okay? People who play major role escaped the debate. The Liberian people did not have an opportunity to ask, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna do it? When are you going to do it? Where will you start from? Those are the 4 what will you say, and why will you say this election 2020 is important, if at all, to you? And
You
what's your
know, Facebook has done something for Liberia that is not fully
oh
realized yet. People don't understand this. You mean think our people are not listening. You can no longer curtail free speech, even if you try, because you don't have the powers to do that. And what people have to understand, not the people talk about importance. The election is important for three reasons. Number one, if Liberia continues on the path it's continuing to go on, and nothing proper is done to go forward, we could implode. Because a bunch of people will not sit down and allow themselves to be taken advantage of anymore so easily.
yeah,
That's number one. Number two, this is not suggesting on any side, either side, but if we don't reinforce the rule of law, people have to understand something. You are involved. The war did not skip anybody. It didn't say, well, because you were not involved, I'm not going to touch you. There were so many innocent people who got killed during the war, only because they were affiliated with some trial or another, or because they were born not due to their own will into some trial or another. That's one reason. Number two, you have to understand something. Elections, to borrow the words of Barack Obama, have consequences.
yes,
If I saw a young woman and I say, listen, I like you, be my wife, and you say yes, you're stupid. Something is inherently wrong with you. And the reason why I'm saying that, I have to give you reasons where I want to take your life and what examples I can show you that I've done in my previous life to warrant you accepting this proposal. If I don't tell you nothing, you're a fool for accepting that proposal. I'm saying this to say you cannot make somebody your leader when you don't know what that person's principles are, what the vision is, what they're aspiring to be, or what they're actually looking to do for the country. That is the most asinine thing I can think about. But this is why I love Facebook now, because Facebook is forcing our people to understand that there are things you're supposed to know. Some of our people did not know this. And when you say you're reaching as far as Nima County, I celebrate that, because our people have to understand this. Elections have consequences. It's not an easy thing. You cannot take people, the most least prepared people in the society, and expect those people to steer the affairs of the state, and you think you're going somewhere.
exactly.
And I'm not knocking anybody, but there are basic requirements to doing every job on earth. Look, if you're going to become a gardener, the first thing you make a garden, your paper will not grow well because you don't know enough about gardening. It doesn't mean you're stupid. It will take time. You will learn how to properly fertilize. Maybe maybe you will say, okay, I will water it in the morning and in the evening. I won't water it when the sun is shining. I will plant it this way. There are several things you have to learn along the line. And if you haven't learned that, and you just go say, listen, this guy hasn't planted a garden before. He hasn't made a typical farm. We're going to give him this industrialized equipment to do mechanized farming. It's going to fail. This is a country that is being run. And people must understand these intricacies. You must ask your elected officials. You cannot give them a free pass. If somebody comes to you and that person wants to become your representative, you have to ask them questions. I'm not talking about the typical question, what have you done in your district? Do you own a house here? This is ridiculous. What is this person's vision for the district? Okay? What are these vision? How are these visions going to improve the district? What clout does this person have to get to the legislature that he's not going to be overshadowed by 72 other people? There's a lot of questions that must be asked. You can just say anybody say, oh, yeah, our son, say he come, we are going to do this for him. No, this is your future. And even if you don't care about your own future, you have children, you have relative nieces and nephews, you have to care about them. Because if the right thing is not done and the wrong people are put into position, they are going to do the wrong things, and the wrong things will not just affect you. Look, the way Liberia is going, if it is not immediately curtailed and this administration is over, it could take us close to 20, 30 years to get back to where Ellen stopped. I want people to understand this. The way this administration is going, if they do not change course and bring on board the proper people to come in and steer the affairs of the state, we could literally lose 6 years free of charge. It amount to nothing.
So Dualu is though, I don't see them changing course. Okay, we've talked and even offered for 3 years, literally. I don't see that. Here's why I don't see that. Dr. Blummer was suspended indefinitely. They put in a guy by the name of Randolph W., who is a wind tech that was repairing, not even repairing, but putting fuels in air conditioning in America. Lived in America for years, now in Liberia, okay? And they're making deputy director. Now this dude is heading the EPA, all right? While the man, I don't know, Dr. Blama, I have where he got his doctorate degree in, because everybody is a doctor now in Liberia. What I understood is the title is a preface when it's academia, not honorary. You can't put a honorary degree as a title. That is illegal, that's unethical, you can't. But then when you're in the land of the blind, I particularly don't see it. Tell me how you see it, if that is possible. I don't see the tide shifting. I see those in charge of our security are mostly former rebel, like the Gallos, what do you call it, Niagara, and all of those people. They're mostly rebels. So I don't see it. So give me a vision of what you see, and maybe you're better off than I am. Okay. So tell me what you see. I know you said you used the prepositional phrase if. What do you see? 3 years we've talked. 3 years we've shift. But let me say and acknowledge the fact that you talk about Facebook. Whether people believe it or not, last week we were on here on the World Economic Crimes Court. Maryland, Grand Judea, Sano, Lofa, people were all on here that far, and all over Europe were on this platform that far. So I'm grateful that we have technology. There's something we call in organizational structure, how you respond to the changing environment. I think we in the diaspora are, and I think the people in Liberia are, but how do we take advantage of that, they catch up really fast, because our lives, our future, the future of our children depends on he's in the house. He's gone out. I'm gonna wait for you.
No, I'm right here.
So,
I came in.
How do you see it? And we're still talking about the importance of the election.
And when we talk about the War on Economic Crime Court, people think it's talking about punishment. Anybody who understands the reasoning behind it, it is not about punishment. It is so far from it, I can't even describe it. We have Sano County Superintendent, who is a former rebel. We have Zwedru. These are major cities in Liberia. Zwedru Superintendent, who's a former rebel. I don't know if you listen to the guy from Hopper, the superintendent of Hopper, stating that
if you will hold on, let me play it. Do you mind if I play it?
Yes, please.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna go ahead and play it. I want to play it so the people can hear it, since we're already here. I'm gonna play that. Okay, here, just Cindy. Okay, here it is. I'm gonna go ahead and play it. Hopefully I can share that. Here he is.
Excuse you, why can't you? Why can't you? No. He's telling us he's telling us something that has to be on record. It has to be on record. He said Jackson must tell a bear. I can put it on record. Are you crazy? That secret you talking? Why you want that thing to be on record? Why you don't want it to be on record? Why you don't want it to be on record? That secret? You can't threaten somebody, you want me to record it?
So that's your county superintendent actually went into the hotel to attack Yeke and Alexander Cummings. The last I checked, the Constitution has a provision, and the Constitution is above everything else. Anything else is sub, and the Constitution is supreme. States and give every Liberian citizen freedom of movement. Go ahead, Dualu.
That was one of the video, but it was a guy out of Plebo, out of Hopper, the superintendent said they have the army, they have the police.
Oh, that one, I can play that too. I have that.
You don't need to play that. The point I was trying to make is you have people who now control every avenue of the state. who believe that they can just unilaterally use these entities because they have the power to, without consideration of its legality or not. They don't care. The issue here is if the Truth and Reconciliation recommendations were implemented, we would not be having some of these problems.
No,
But
we
going back to
wouldn't.
my original point, it is not about punishment. It is, when people mention Senator Johnson and say, oh, Senator Prince Johnson, look, it's not just Senator Johnson. The message that we must send in Liberia, that no more with impunity, that you can come to this country, kill, maim, do whatever, and you get away with it. We don't want this to happen ever again. Yes, punishment is part of it, but the major part is the protection of Liberia and our sovereignty. Because yes, what could happen? Let's say tomorrow some lunatic decides, say, you know what, I'm going to be the next Charles Taylor. And I'm going to come back to Liberia with a Kalashnikov or AK-47 and come to the country and say, you know what, I'm going to try to be president, and this is the best way because there is no consequence attached to this. Yeah. And guess what? You think anybody will just sit down and allow him to kill? There will be total chaos because everybody will assume this guy's going to get away with it. So if we don't protect ourselves, there will be defense force. You know how during the war they had like local defense force, Grand Jita defense force. There will be Corware defense force, Painesville. There will be defense force everywhere, and there will be total chaos. The issue about prosecution is forbidding, is protection of future generations, so this cannot be repeated. That is the whole point. Now, you appoint some of these guys. Now, the president of the country, even on Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, you have a responsibility. And even though the Truth and Reconciliation Commission is not being enforced, you have a responsibility to the people to not take these very people and put it into a position of trust. You have that responsibility. Now, President Weah has disregarded that. That's just, I don't know the reasoning behind it, but he has disregarded that. But you take these people with these checkered past that have no regard for human life, you put them in these positions, whatever they do, people don't understand it. Whatever the superintendent or Grand Jita does, it reflects on President Weah. With the but I Joe Weah do it, you don't even understand how organizations work. If Yasini is my boss, and I'm in the department harassing every girl in that department, and Yasini does nothing, it reflects on your leadership, whether you like it or not.
That is correct.
And people don't, they say, oh, they hit the boy. This is my president. I'm on an obligation or duty as an educated, civilized Liberian man to watch what he's doing to my country because the consequences is going to affect every single one of us.
That is correct.
Not it. It is a responsibility, a duty. And the sooner our people understand it, it's better. Look, some of these guys that hold these positions, they feel they can do this, and they're going with impunity. I don't know if you remember during the elections where Talia Ure, even with the issue in District 15, where Senator Yombi
just show up on my history today, my timeline. Yep.
I don't care what happened. The reason why you prosecute these, look, even if you don't want to read, and I encourage President Weah to do a whole lot more reading. Election violence has plummeted so many countries around the world, especially in Africa, to the point where you cannot take it lightly in any single term. In fact, your own people, we have totally disregarded the code of conduct. It doesn't exist anymore. People have to understand that. It's been trashed.
They tell you other people did it for how you got it at time.
Okay, you see, this is lunacy. Look, the reason why administrations are changed is to avoid the continuation of what was happening before. This is the basic underlying foundation. And this is why when you want to run in my district or you want to be my president, you have to come 4 or 5 debates. We want to ground you. We want to ask you questions. We want to know, what are you thinking? Because these questions will uncover how you're truly thinking. Because running a country is not a running the wheel market, my sister. Look, you have to be a physicist. You have to be an economist. You have to be a nurse. You have to be a social worker. You have to have an MBA. You have to be a contract. I'm not saying you must go formal education, but what I'm saying, you have to have a vast understanding. You be very well read.
Those environment,
you have to be very well read. And you can say, oh, that I'm an era. Oh, I don't know economics. Whatever. That's the books out there.
But you got an MBA. If you got an MBA, obviously, then what did you do? You didn't study? How did you get a degree?
Exactly. So my issue here is our country, and back to your question you asked previously, The reason why the country continues to falter, because the middle class is non-existent. And this works to the favor of the people in power. Because if I am in Liberia 100% with my family, my kids, if the likes of Yasini, if we had, let's say, 20,000 of the Yasinis of the world in Liberia, living in Liberia with their children, you can eat right now where you stand. You can literally eat whatever you want to eat without question, without even thinking twice about it.
That is correct.
You have been privileged. So nobody will tell you, say, oh, Yasini, when you talk, you will not eat tomorrow.
Yeah.
It will be very funny to you, because there is no possible way anybody can stop that.
Yeah.
So we don't have those people in Liberia. So everybody is muted, not because they want to be. So this middle class creation that I'm pushing for, and what you said, and I'm going to steal that, Yasini, I want to give you credit, but I want to steal that. Liberia's middle class already exists. You just have to bring us home.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to bring us home. I'm going to steal that. We already exist. Bring us home. I'm not saying bring me home for government job. I'm saying protect an investment that is made into the country, or encourage investment that will spawn the economic activity that we so desperately need.
Correct.
The revenue base cannot be from one or two locations, the Firestone or the Freeport or Monrovia. If one of them falter, the government ain't got no money.
Yep.
There's still a Georgia guy.
And they're business people. They're there for the bottom line. You know,
for the bottom line, most of the tax creation in this country come from mom and pop stores and mom and pop businesses.
Exactly.
The government don't care if you build a factory here, there. They would love to have a factory there, but without the factory, the society still functions. We need people that can eat without an eating pan being in somebody's house. I hope you understand the analogy.
I like that, without an eating pan being in somebody's house.
You understand me? You say, oh, yes. I will not get you food to do that. I say, hey, go, yeah. Let me go to the man, Jaja. No, this is making our people big rings. It's making them, you indignifying them. Look, give a man a job. There are job creations. If people let me come so we can create 200 jobs in 2 to 3 years, and we'll come in with a collateral, I will find a way to find a $1 million. You will come up with $2 million. We'll create 200 jobs. And with 3 to 5 years, the government will pay not a single penny. Within 2 to 5 years, we are guaranteeing you this is what is going to happen. Even if it don't happen entirely, but we will be at a level where you get 100% of your money back, number one. And number two, you're going to up your tax base. You take an additional 200 to 300 people from all government payroll or from really beyond government job to having a private sector where you can build a viable Liberian business that is here permanently. The middle class is spun by these little economic activity. I can run into the account and say, you know what, Yasini, I heard the last time say you guys got 600 acres in this area, man. But listen, we have this agreement with Stop and Shop in the States, and I'm trying to plant a 200-acre pineapple farm to supply Stop and Shop.
There you go.
This is how you do that.
And Dualu, here it is, though. Let me just add there. Here it is. Guys, if you're going to call, the number is posted. Please go ahead and call. We got about 15 minutes, and we're going to be out. That's it. Majority, up to 80% of the contingent that goes to Liberia comes back or to the various locations, it return empty. That's our market right there.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Look, when I was doing the feasibility study for my business, we were in the Southeast Asia, and people don't know this. Most of the pigs farms around the world, the largest portions are in Asia. They eat a lot of pig, but most of the pig feeds come from places like Laos, Cambodia, and most of these
Cambodia, places. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what's going on is in Liberia, and Google this, Nigeria ships. Look, the thing is just Nigeria ships close to 3 billion. I don't say million would be billion worth of cassava out of that country every year. That's more than the whole economy. That's what they're shipping out of the country, and we get 600 plot of land sitting down somewhere.
Yeah, and Dualu, here's the thing. Something that been really hurting me since we started this what do you call it, corona relief help. My particular team gave out over 300 bag of rice along with Dr. Francine. Mm-hmm. I believe Emmanuel Service and a lot of other people have done the same.
Yep.
I particularly, and then I thought this was a myth. But when people were talking after this incident that just happened in Grand Judy, and people were saying, how are you going to get to Monrovia to get product? How are you going to get to Monrovia to get food to eat? And I remember Alexander Cummings shipping a boatload of rice to the Southeast. And then I go outside in my garden and I see that I have potato greens, I have pepper, I have a lot of other things in my, and I don't understand the mindset of civilization in Liberia. I'm not sure if civilization means that you don't work hard. I'm not sure if civilization means that you don't get to make fun and feed yourself, or embrace the newer technology to make you more effective and more productive and efficient. I don't understand that. When I was growing up, and I'm sure if you can remember when you were growing up, if your people came from up interior, they brought stuff with them. You didn't take food out with you. Today, food is being brought from Monrovia to up interior, and these people are sitting on Greenland, arable land, not just a land, okay? A land that way, I mean, you get there and you see the grass, they're dark green, that they've been fertilized, and okay? And then people say the people depend on the government to eat. I think that's one of the reasons that people, I remember my great uncle, the first senior senator of Nema County in the 60s, challenging the president at the time and say, you will not come here because we could feed ourselves. What happened to us along the line?
Look, nothing.
Like mindset of civilization. I think that's another topic we need to talk about, because Liberians need to understand the white men whom they worship, they work. And they work hard, and they work long hours.
Look, there is something, like you said, another day for another topic. Urbanization is happening everywhere in the world. Most of the people that live in the villages, in fact, I will put it that 60% of people that live in Maria don't belong there. It is their right to be there. I understand it, but they don't belong there. Look, I couldn't right now go take my family and move to New York City. It's not conducive for me. It's too crowded. I wouldn't like it there. For so many other reasons, it's not a great place to raise kids downtown New York or somewhere. If I even have to go afford to go live there. But the issue I'm trying to say is, these people come to the city and they have no city skill or ways to maneuver in the city, especially in the environment where there is no job. It's not just happening in Liberia, it's happening in almost most African countries. Urbanization is happening. But this is what the issue goes to. It doesn't mean we can't feed ourselves. Sometimes when I'm in Monrovia, when I'm going back and forth, when I get bored, I would just jump in my pickup and drive to Ganta. I want you to understand something. We can feed ourselves. The food is on the highway. The food is there. Look, if you go into the interior parts, what people have to understand is, oh, our people are lazy. Our people are not lazy or Yasini. The proper policies are not being implemented to make sure these people do this farm. I will give you an example. I met a lady, we passed Total a little bit. There was a little village, and I stopped by the road to buy some sugar cane, and they can sell the sugar cane along the road. And we were just sitting there. We were just chatting. She happened to be a Bassa lady. I speak Bassa very fluently. And we were sitting there, and we were chatting. And she said, oh, my son, hey, they pick up when you're coming back. I get plenty here. I won't carry the Moria, but you bear no, we've been waiting. You know, they won't carry. I went.
So we have logistical problem, but you spoke to that earlier. How we could fix that? The diaspora will be an answer to that.
Yes, even in this big country that we have here, what the American government does, you see the USDA. The USDA doesn't have farm. And most other countries have these similar policies. We have open spaces everywhere. You can see a county, the Bon, Nima, and Lofa County. These are our breadbasket counties. Okay, they grow a lot of food. Between these counties, you can build massive warehouse from the government. If you can post $10-15 million in the budget every single year to organize these things, anybody will plan anything that the government needs, these things will be bought by the government. And even we don't have the rules, but the government has the means now to make sure we say or say all the way in the heart of Nima County continue to farm, because people are being discouraged to farm because the products are going to waste. Doesn't mean they don't want to farm. So what that happens is it trickles down to the rest of the population. Why should I be farming in Nima County or Lofa County when I can go to Monrovia and buy my motorbike and hustle? Monrovia has not been to the level that will take you in yet. So you're leaving something, but they're leaving because of discouragement. In many instances, the policies are not there. Now, the government don't have to do that. I don't like to put things on government. This is how I think. The government is saying, you know what, wrong? We need 4 warehouses in Lofa County. Anybody who's willing to come to build warehouses, we will even subsidize the warehouse production building.
But that's the thing, though, Dualu. They don't want to do that. So
I agree.
You talk about the porterhouse that you were talking about. Yeah. In this country, when the idea of the railroad came about, the transatlantic railroad, the government, the Senate came in because they knew it was going to benefit the country.
The country.
And when Alexander Bell came out with the idea, they knew it was going to benefit the world. So they came in just like doing the bubble busting with the MCR and all of that. They came in, although they strengthened out new policies and put out, but they still built people out. Doing the housing bubble bust, what did they do? They strengthened the car industry to make sure America stay at work. They didn't take the money and run them on themselves. That's the thing we're talking about.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Look, even right now, it's crazy. I don't understand why these people thinking like this. Even in this country right now in 2020, if you employ a certain number of people in America and your business struggling, the government don't want people to lose their jobs. They will proper your business, not because they want you to get rich. I had an incident at the health ministry in Liberia when I took my tour, when they read my proposal that was on Eddie Johnson's administration. One thing they said, Dualu, my man, they think that we have more time better than that to you, my man. They think if the people enforce the law in the country, you'll become racial. They begin smart, you won't be racial. I have to say that's a bad thing.
Is it? No. Dualu, they have problem with you, Liberian being rich. They don't have problem making Lebanese people who came with a backpack on their back to the airport and brought their people in who are taking our money out of the country. They don't have problem with that.
They don't have problem with that. To compound that, Yasini, when the government realized that under Ellen Johnson's administration, that I was actually making some money now with Meta Steel, the U.S. Embassy, the government went and brought in tourists to compete with me directly, City Hall. How can I compete with the government? I cannot. Especially in the country such as ours, where the government controls everything. Now, the thing is, you cannot have everything. Give us some to your citizens. Let them get us to this $30,000.
That's what privatization comes to play. Now, that's the problem. We are.
Because if we get to $30,000,
yes.
if Yasini employing 20 people, if Dualu get 20 people, if Mr. Flomo get 20 people, if Wisa get 30 people, eventually you got almost 2 million people working for regular Liberian. We will self-actualize in our own country. Now Yasini will say, you know what, wrong? My true dream was to go to Nima County and transform the location. This is the evolution of development.
And Dualu, to tell you the truth, my attention is no longer in Monrovia, although I have a lot of property like land and stuff there and have home there. I've never lived in a home. I don't think I will ever. My goal is to go whatever I need to do. Like you say, urbanization, I'm going to go to Nima County moving forward. Any investment I need to
tell people that, and there's something happening in Nima County. If Nima County actually, most especially Ganta, if it continues on the trajectory it's on, it could rival Monrovia in 30 years. I am not kidding you, Yasini. I don't know when the last. Look, there is something happening in Nima County.
I was there about 2 years ago.
And the transition that's happening in Nima County, if it continues, the buildings that are going on, the infrastructure, now we just have to build these organizations around this infrastructure. It could be another city. This is good for Liberia. In fact,
we will talk of Ed, Dualu. We have a lot of property in there. I mean, we have like over 900 acres of land in Ganta area.
Yeah. So the thing is, we can grow, but like I said, I will steal that. I love what you said. Liberia middle class already exists.
Oh yes.
You got to bring it in.
So in your final thought.
My final thought is, we bleed, we breathe, and we pray for Liberia. This is our country. We talk because we care. It is not. We are in opposition to anything that harms Liberia, irrespective of who practices it. I want you to understand. Let me say this again. We are in opposition to anything that harms Liberia, irrespective of who practices it. I don't care. You could be God himself. If it harms Liberia, we don't like it. We want our people to open their eyes. Elections have consequences. The conditioning in Liberia right now, what's happening in the country, with everything, literally we've been relegated to the least. The poorest country. We're not plenty and we poor, but we got everything. It doesn't vibe. It doesn't make any sense. Our job as Liberians is to open your eyes and vote for constitutional adherence. That means the rule of law. Nobody should be above that law. If anybody practices or goes against that, don't vote for them. Number two, have your dignity, your constitutional giving dignity. Nobody can give you your right. It is inherent. It is God-given. You must seize it. Number three, your future matter. and most especially our children's future matters.
The children's future matters.
Yeah. Hold the children, your government officials accountable. You should not celebrate them until they have done something that is worth celebrating. Having government position is not an accomplishment.
No.
A dog could become superintendent of any county if the president appointed him. It's not an accomplishment. What have they done for this country? You are not living any longer. We can't continue to become least. We have to ask for more because we deserve more. Look, if we, and I want you to honestly believe with this, if we do what the Constitution requires, in 10 years, that I'm plenty year old, in 10 years, I will be 52 years old, 53, well, I'll be 10, 53, 43 too. I'll be 53 years, I will still be alive, God willing. Liberia, the typical Liberian will be making $10,000 to $12,000 a year. Right now, we are around $700. If we just follow the Constitution as is. Equitability in the system. We're not asking for a lot. All we are asking for is for dignity for our people. The big man syndrome in Liberia must go. Just because you are official in government does not mean you are above the people. Stand up for what is right, but most especially, stand up for what will elevate Liberia, not what somebody gave you 2 corporate to vote for them. Thank you so much, Yasini. It was such a pleasure today to talk to you.
It was. I'm gonna play this, and we're gonna end up doing this. Hold on. Okay. I'm gonna play this. So this is a direct representation of our president, and he have not spoken to that. I think that's exactly what Dualu said. Yeah. We'll hold him accountable. Yeah. That said, guys, it has been real. We were going to stay to our time. I didn't get Nima to call back, but they are live. We're still live, I guess. Dualu answered all of the questions, so I didn't get any calls today. I think this was a great conversation. I don't particularly care. I don't know if I were yelling, I was calling, we are named, we have 400-500 people. Maybe if I had a, porno going or I was insulting, it would work. But usually the word of the academia is not loud. And we were here to teach. To my chairman can say notch, okay, and get to where we need to get to. We are the generation that we have been waiting for, Dualu. If you're listening, you are the generation that we have been waiting for, that Liberia has been waiting for, to be that change. So let's be that change. It does not matter if your father, your sister, your brother, your neighbor, the proximity have to stop. And we must all hold each other accountable. And tribalism need to stop. And Liberians need to understand the Constitution is paramount. The Constitution is the Bible of the nation, is what we breathe, or the Quran of the nation per se. That said, it was really, really good having this conversation with you, Dualu. God bless. We need to have more of this conversation. I think we have another topic we need to expand on. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you.